This video covers the retest review 2 over inequalities. So this video will go through all of the questions, and you can write down what I'm writing and then ask your teacher questions if you have additional questions. So first they ask us to solve these inequalities on the first page. I apologize. Oh my goodness. So sorry. That was fun. Okay. So, for problem 1, they ask us to solve and write the solution. So we are trying to get x by itself and solving this inequality. So if I use my don't call me after midnight, I don't have any parentheses to distribute. I don't have any like terms to combine. I only have variables on one side, so I don't need to move. I will need to add or subtract. Outside of that box is a positive 7, so I will subtract 7 from both sides. Remember, whatever I do to one side, I must do to the other. So I have moved my letter by adding or subtracting. So I'm trying to get x by itself. Now I still don't have x by itself, so I will need to multiply or divide. So I'm going to divide both sides by a -1. That negative is going to cancel. -5 divided by -1 is a positive 5. And because I divided by a negative, I'm going to need to flip that inequality symbol to make it a less than sign. So my answer is going to be x is less than 5. Remember, anytime you multiply or divide by a negative, you flip the inequality symbol. So problem 2, I have -28 is less than 4x minus 4. So I'm trying to get that x by itself. Don't call me after midnight. No parentheses to distribute. No like terms on the same side of the inequality to combine. Only have one set of letters, so I don't need to move. I will need to add or subtract. Outside of that box is a -4. I will move it to the other side by adding 4 to both sides. On the right side, it cancels. On the left side, -28 plus 4 is -24. My next step is to multiply or divide. In this case, I divide by a +4. Because I divided by a positive, I do not change my sign. And so my answer can just be -6 is less than x. Problem 3 is a tiny bit blurry, but you can still see what's going on. So when we use don't call me after midnight, I boxed my variable because I don't have any parentheses to distribute. I don't have any like terms to combine. I only have letters on one side of the inequality. In that box, there's nothing on the outside being added or subtracted to it. So my last step is to multiply or divide. In this specific example, I'm being divided. I have x being divided by -2. So I need to multiply both sides by a -2. Now when we do that, remember that inequality sign, because I am multiplying by a negative, that inequality sign is going to flip. On the left side, the -2's cancel and I'm left with x. On the right side, 4 times -2 is -8. So my full answer is going to be x is less than or equal to -8. Problem 4, when I use my don't call me after midnight, this time I do have parentheses that I need to distribute. So I take that -4 out front and multiply it to both pieces. So -4 times 2 is -8. -4 times -x is +4x, and leave the other parts alone. I do have like terms that I can combine on the left side. Remember, if I draw that line down the equal sign, I'm looking, or the inequality sign, excuse me, I am looking for things that are the same. -8 and 4 are both numbers that don't have letters or variables. So -8 plus 4 is a -4, and bring everything else down that has not changed. From here, I can box my variable. I don't have letters on both sides. Outside of that box, I do have something to add or subtract, so I'm going to add 4 to both sides. So 4x is less than 12. And still trying to get x by itself, I will need to multiply or divide. In this case, dividing by 4. So x is going to be less than 3. And I write that as my answer. Problem 5, don't call me after midnight. I don't have any parentheses. I don't have any like terms. If I box my variable, I don't have variables on both sides. I do have something I can add or subtract outside of that box. Be very careful because when you box your variable, the sign in front of the number goes with the number, so that negative goes with the 2. Outside of my box is a positive 13, so I need to move it by subtracting. So negative 2x is greater than 8. And then I will finish by multiplying or dividing. I am dividing by a negative 2. Because I divided by a negative 2, I have to flip my inequality. But everything else stays the same. So negative 2 divided by negative 2 on that left side goes away, and I'm left with x. 8 divided by negative 2 is negative 4. So I have x is less than negative 4. So problem 6, don't call me after midnight. I do have parentheses to distribute, so negative 2 times x is negative 2x. Negative 2 times negative 6 is positive 12. Leave everything else the same. I don't have like terms to combine, but this time when I box my variable, there are terms on both sides. So I will need to move a variable to the other side. So I'm going to add 2x to both sides. I'm adding because I'm going to the other side, so I do the opposite operation. That negative 9 and the positive 12 stay as they are, so I just rewrite them to bring them down. From here, I box my variable, and I do have something outside to add or subtract, so I'm going to add 9 to both sides. So 7x is less than 21. And then I will finish by multiplying or dividing. I'm dividing both sides by 7. So x is less than 3 will be my answer. And I'm done with that problem. Problem 7, don't call me after midnight. No parentheses, no combining like terms. Box my letter, only one on one side, so I do have something to add or subtract outside of that box. I move the negative 11 by adding 11 to both sides, and I get 4 is less than 2x. I divide both sides by 2, and 2 is less than x. Problem 8 asked me to write an equation but not solve, so I'm just writing an equation. We have Peter and Joseph who are discussing their ages. Peter is 14 and is 14 years older than 1/3 of Joseph. Write an equation to show Joseph's age. So Peter is 14 and 14 is, which means equals, so 14 is or equals 2 years older than, remember than is a turnaround word, and older we're going to add, so we're going to add 2 to the back. 1/3 of Joseph's age. Of means multiplied, so 1/3 times Joseph. We don't know what Joseph is, so we're going to leave that as the letter J. So 1/3 of Joseph plus 2 is equal to 14, which is Peter. And they asked us not to solve, so that's my answer. 9 asked me to write the inequality and solve. So a principal is choosing between 2 field trips. The first is 240 plus 40 per student. The second is 600. For what number of students is the first more expensive than the second? So if I write it in words first, where is the first more expensive or greater than the second? Now for the first one, I know that the first is 240 plus 40 per student. So the first is 240 plus 40 per student. We don't know how many students, so I'm going to leave that as an S. Otherwise, it would tell me what that would be. For the second is just 600. So the second, we're just going to let that equal 600. This one asked me to solve, so now I use Don't Call Me After Midnight. I subtract 240 from both sides. So 40S is greater than 360. And then divide both sides by 40. So S is greater than 9. And for the last one, problem 10, Natalie and her sister opened a savings account at the same time. Natalie deposited $100 and will deposit $10 each month. Her sister deposited $25 and will deposit $25 for each month. When will Natalie have less than her sister? So where will Natalie be less than the sister? Well, for Natalie, we know that she deposited $100 and will deposit $10 per month. So she has $100 plus $10 per month. For the sister, she deposited $25 and will deposit $25 each month. So deposited or started with $25 and is depositing $25 per month. This one, remember, they asked us to solve, so don't call me after midnight. No distributing, no combining like terms. We do have variables on both sides, so I will need to move my variables. So I move 10m to the other side. So 100 is less than 25 plus 15m. I can add or subtract away from that 15, so subtract 25 from both sides, and 75 is less than 15m. And then to finish, I will need to multiply or divide. I will need to divide both sides by 15. And 75 divided by 15 is 5, which would be less than m. So 5 less than m is my answer.